Let's go through some basic selection tools in Photoshop. So we're going to start with our selections demo folder. And let's go ahead and open one of the JPEGs that you already have. So I'm going to use the building file. Remember, it's a JPEG, so if you just double click it, it just opens up in the photo viewer. So we want to force drag it into Photoshop. So if you have Photoshop open, you can just pull it, drag and drop. Let's just work with this one file. In Photoshop, we have selection tools. They're mostly on the left-hand side, the top couple of icons. I'm going to have you guys do some quick keys, and quick keys will just activate tools so you don't have to figure out which one you're on. I'll give you this resource, but quick keys are shown here, and quick keys in parentheses will activate different tools. So you can see here, quick key M will activate your rectangular marquee, E for eraser, and so on and so forth. So when I reference a quick key, that you just hit that letter on your keyboard to activate the tool group. So we're going to focus mainly on group A here. So we've got group A selection tools activated. The move tool is quick key V. And then we have our rectangular, elliptical, and single column marquee. That's all in this group here, and it is a quick key M. So I'm going to hit M to activate that tool group. So if I just said, click the rectangle, you wouldn't know because there's a lot of them that might look like a rectangle over here, and they're different. Okay, so that's why the quick keys are going to be helpful to you in the beginning. So whenever you change tools on the toolbar in Photoshop, we get a different look up here. Okay, so as you can see, when I switch to different tools, the options bar will change depending on which tool. Okay, I'm going to go back to quick key M. We're going to start with just the first tool in the box. Remember that if you see the little triangle, it means there are extra tools in the group. You can either long mouse click or right mouse click to expose the other tools. And the white rectangle again tells you which tool you currently have selected. So with the rectangular marquee, it does just that. You can select different areas of your documents. I'm just clicking and dragging my mouse. Right now, nothing can happen when you select anything. The problem is that our background layer is locked. So when you open a JPEG, the default is it is a locked background. So I'm going to show you how to unlock the background layer. First thing though, one of the quick keys, or not quick keys, but a shortcut, and I had you guys write down shortcuts. And one of the shortcuts that we're going to use today is the Control-D to deselect. Okay, so I'll show you how that works. So when you have something selected, which you can see here, this is the marquee or marching ants. When I want to turn off the selection or deactivate it, I do the keyboard shortcut Control-D. So again, I'm just making a couple selections. When I want to get out of the selection, I do Control-D. All right, so let's talk about if I want to delete part of this image. When I make a selection and I hit delete, nothing is going to happen, okay, in terms of deleting the pixels. It gives me an option to fill. That's not what I want to do, okay? So what we're going to do is make sure nothing's selected. I'm going to go to my layers panel, and I'm going to just double click on the little layer thumbnail. Thumbnail is the little picture. I'm going to double click, and it says new layer, and you can name it if you want. Right now, let's just leave it, click OK, and you can see that the layer no longer is a background layer with a lock, okay? I'm going to undo that so you can see that again. So the lock means you can't edit it, and it's a background layer. Again, just double mouse click the layer thumbnail to unlock it. Don't worry about naming it, click OK. So now, when I use my rectangular marquee tool and I press my delete key, it actually deletes the pixels. And we've talked about what the gray and white checkerboard means. That's transparent or see-through. So if I continue making selections and just hitting delete each time, you can see I can keep deleting different sections of my image. But if I want to do other things with this image, right now we're just kind of understanding what these different selection tools are all about. So that's obviously the rectangular marquee. If you want a perfect square, like equal sides, when you're using the rectangular marquee, you hold down the Shift key and you can see you get a perfect square. So if I continue deleting, holding my Shift key, I get a perfect square. Some other things that you can do, you can use combinations of different keyboard shortcuts, okay? One of the other keyboard shortcuts that I want to go over today is the F12. F12 says, right here, revert or go back to the last saved version. At this point, we haven't saved anything. So I'm going to show you what F12 does. Right now, we've pretty much destroyed our image. I want to bring back my image to the last saved version. I could close it and reopen it, or because I haven't saved anything, I can press F12 on my keyboard and my original JPEG comes back. The only difference here is my background layer again is still locked, so we know the trick, right? Double click, click OK, and now we have an unlocked background layer. A couple other things I want to show you here. If I make a simple selection and now I hold my Shift key, look at my cursor. When I add my Shift key, you see a little extra plus show up. That means you can add to a selection. So if I want an irregular shape, now it's redrawn my rectangular and joined in. So that's what the Shift key does. And you can also subtract from a current selection by holding the Alt key. And look at my cursor. When I hold the Alt key, my cursor has a little minus sign. Now I can take chunks. I can even take chunks within to reshape a rectangular marquee. So now if I hit delete, you can see the result that I get. All right, I'm going to press F12 again, get back a clean image. I'm going to unlock the layer again, and then let's go on to they're pretty straightforward. The next tool in the group, again, you can right mouse click on the marquee, rectangular marquee. The elliptical is just a circle. They don't call it a circle, it's called an ellipse. Same idea. When I select and delete, I can, just keep using it. It's just a different shape. If I want to get a perfect circle, I hold my Shift key as I drag. Once I start to drag, this is a little bit different. So I just showed you that if you hold the Shift key, it adds to a selection. Let me back this up a little bit. I'm confusing myself here. All right. If I drag an elliptical marquee and I hold my Shift key, it's adding to the selection. But what if I want to draw a perfect circle? I'm going to hit Control-D to deselect. I start dragging. Now when I hold my Shift key before I release my mouse, it snaps it into a perfect circle. Okay, so you click and drag your shape first, and then if you want to make it a perfectly round, same radius circle, hold the Shift key. And now you can select. I'm just showing you the delete right now just to show you what it's selecting. All right, I'm going to hit Control-D to deselect, and I can continue doing the same thing. If I want to make irregular shapes, I can add the Shift key as I select and create odd shape selections, and then I can delete and show you the results there. Again, the same thing. If you ever see marching ants and you want to get out of them, Control-D. Let's do a punch out. Let's do a circle. And now I'm going to hold my Alt key and I'm going to make it like that. Now I'm going to press delete and I get that result. Okay. One more thing I want to show you is the inverse selection. So I'm going to F12 to clean my document up. Let's unlock the background again. And right now, let me show you something. So if I'm just going to take a big chunk out of here. If I press delete, we know it's going to delete what's inside the selection. Now I'm going to undo that. What if I wanted to delete everything but the selection? That's called the inverse, okay? And I had you guys write down these keyboard shortcuts here, and you can see here, inverse. Control-Shift-I selects the inverse, I for inverse, it's not an L, okay? So I'm going to do Control-Shift-I. It doesn't look that different, but what you'll see now is we have a rectangular marquee around the edge of the picture, so that's the opposite. Watch what happens when I delete those pixels. It deleted everything but. That's what the inverse does. I'm going to undo that. Let's talk about another useful keyboard shortcut. You can see I've been saying, oh, I'm going to undo. There are two undos in Photoshop. Control-Z will only undo the last change, and then we have Control-Alt-Z, which will undo multiple. It'll allow you to step back 20 steps as the default. That's the one that I'm going to recommend that you use the most, okay? The Control-Alt-Z when you're working in Photoshop. So let's go back in here. I want to deselect everything, so I'm going to do the keyboard shortcut Control-D. And let's do a little bit more inverse so I can show you a couple other things. So let's make an irregular shape. So I'm holding my Shift key, making a weird shape. Now, I could do the keyboard shortcut Control-Shift+I, or if I'm inside the selection with my cursor, I can right mouse click and I get some new options. So you can see here, I can deselect, I can select the inverse. There's some other things that I can do in here. So there are like 10 ways to do the same thing in Photoshop. Okay, so you'll learn all these things. I'm just kind of showing you some of the basics here. So again, I've just right-clicked within the selection, and now I can select the inverse, and I can delete. So it's going to delete everything but what I selected. Okay, and if you want to deselect, so you can see the marching ants everywhere. When you have marching ants, a lot of times it keeps you from being able to do anything else with your document. So Control-D will turn off your current selection. You can also right-click and choose to deselect. So I want you to play around with some of the things that I'm showing here because there's more than one way to do things. Now, lastly, I want to show you that you can do a lot of this stuff in the Select menu as well. Okay, so, but it's a waste of time, in my opinion, to have to go up to the menu to, you know, deselect or select the inverse. So let me just back that up a second. I'm just doing Control-Alt-Z. I'm going to deselect everything and just show you. I could go here and I could go to the menu also and I could choose the inverse. Same exact thing, okay? But to me, it's a waste of time again to go to the select menu. So you can try right mouse clicking or you can try just using the keys on the keyboard. Lastly, I'm going to deselect. We have a couple more in the same group. We have single row marquee and single column. They do just that. They select a single row of your, like a single row of pixels or a single column. I'll just show them to you real quick. There's no quick key for it, but so if I go this way, I'm actually deleting. Now it's hard for you to see that it's really deleting those pixels. Okay, so I'm just clicking. Let's switch to the other one and let's do single column. Just click your mouse anywhere on your document and you'll see it starts deleting. Now, what are we really deleting? All right, I'm going to turn off my selection, Control-D, and I'm going to zoom in to my document so I can see. So remember, all these keyboard shortcuts, that's why I wanted you to write them down so you don't have to look at them digitally. So we have Control+, we'll zoom in, Control-, zoom out, etc., etc. So I would take out your paper notes and see what's going on. So Control+, let's Control+, and you can see, you keep zooming in, that's what you did. You deleted a single row of pixels or a single column of pixels. So I'm going to Control-1 to get back to 100%. If I want to get my whole document back again, remember that's the F12 keyboard shortcut of the right here. Okay, so I'm not going to go over all the keyboard shortcuts, but the ones that I have highlighted here are super handy. We went over the Control-D also. We went over the inverse, and I already got your F12. Okay, so I want you to just kind of practice with what I've gone over in this video today. And it's nothing that you need to save. So just, you know, keep practicing. If you destroy the picture, remember you can just do a quick F12.